Hey, welcome to my journey. I am developing an RPG game where you take back orc camps in interesting ways. It's been a while, so let's just jump right into what I did. I began with re-implementing the ability for the player to jump. In the last devlog, we removed this feature and you guys just seem to hate that idea. And you guys gave some pretty honest and good reasons to why I should add it back. With that in mind, I went back and I re-implemented the jumping. This time I was going to do it right and make sure it all flowed well. After a bit of work, we ended up with something like this. After finishing up the jumping, our team started discussing a redesign for the main player model. We wanted to fix some of the proportions of the player and just make him much more recognizable at a quick glance. So we started throwing together some references and getting a rough idea on how we wanted this player model to look like. The tool that we started using for this and what you see in the background is called Milano. Our team actually switched over to Milano in the last month because of the visual elements it provides. We actually reached out to the wonderful people over at Milano and they were extremely kind enough to sponsor this video. Milano is a tool to organize your ideas and projects into visual boards. It's extremely flexible and lets you plan out any sort of project you have in mind. It's particularly helpful for game design and it combines what I love about a good old-fashioned whiteboard and a great project management tool. If you'd like to check out Milano, it's completely free, so go check it out in the link in the description below. So after throwing a few ideas and references into Milano, Khazad and Rosman got straight to work and did their thing, and after a few slight tweaks we ended up with something like this. We kept the clothing reminiscent of the old player but gave it a nice upgrade. That with the new proportions and style of the character made it match up better with the more stylized low poly look we're going for. And after Rosman did his final tweaks and uploaded it over to Milano, it was my turn to rig the model up and set him up in game. Rigging the player didn't take too much time, definitely not because I just slapped him straight into Mixamo, but actually getting him playable in the game was a whole nother story. This was because my spaghetti code for the ragdoll system was poking out from behind the duct tape, but after some painstakingly long hours fixing all the issues with our ragdoll system, the player was all finished up. We were finally able to go into Milano and check off all of those annoying bugs. Now with the player fully implemented, we decided that the enemies needed a bit of a refresh as well. So after some hard work, Rosman and Khazad uploaded the full set of refreshed enemies onto Milano. Rosman ended up making the boom orc in 3 different colors because we're all kind of split on which color suited him the best. So let us know what color you think suits him the best in the comments down below. Since you'll be down there anyways, just hit that subscribe button so my ego can just be fueled up a little bit more. And with that very shameful plug, let's start rigging these characters. So after doing something more professional and creating proper to-do lists, it was time to brush up on my weight painting skills and get to work. Plopping in the first warrior orc, I got straight into it. It didn't take too much time to understand how Blender handles weight painting, and honestly it seemed much easier than back in 2019, so I guess I was just terrible. I was a bad game dev. So once getting the warrior orc all painted up, it was a rinse and repeat process for all the other orcs. By the end of this, I felt quite burnt out on doing all of this character painting stuff, so I decided to switch gears and work on the environment. Something I love in those games like Breath of the Wild were those grassy fields that blew in the wind, so I decided to create a mood board of what I wanted our environment to look like and started messing around with the terrain tool. I knew this would be a challenge since you can't just simply fill an entire map with grass and expect it to run at 60+ FPS. So after doing some research and talking with level designers, I got a few helpful tips. Instead of placing each blade of grass one by one, it's more performant to cluster a bunch of these objects into one mesh and scatter that around. Even with this method, I kept running at the low end of 30 FPS, but then I realized it's super difficult to place grass efficiently, especially with this cluster object by hand. So I looked around and decided that a procedural vegetation spawner would be extremely helpful. I ended up using one from the asset store instead of making my own, since who really wants to reinvent the wheel, and everyone already just thinks my game's an asset flip. But the best part about this asset is that it's completely free. I'll link it in the description below if you guys want to use it in your own projects. After some tinkering, I ended up getting the world to feel much more like the original mood I set out for, and now I understand the importance of having mood boards and why you should always use them. Now with the environment looking snazzier than ever, it's back to implementing those pesky little enemies. The first one on the chopping block was the warrior orc. I already had the AI finished, so it was as simple as just changing up the model. The only other feature I added was giving the AI the ability to jump backwards after an attack, but that wasn't too difficult. Next up was the archer orc. I was hoping that this would be as easy as the warrior orc, but of course the spaghetti code just slapped me straight in the face. There were a few bugs, but thankfully it was just attaching some new scripts to the orc's arrow and removing some others. And finally, I added the same rollaway mechanic that I implemented for the warrior orc because it just made sense for the archer orc as well. With both of those enemies now fully finished and checked off, it's time to add in that explosive orc. I already had the basics set up, but some of the newer features such as the field of view system wasn't yet implemented, so I got straight to work. This wasn't too difficult to catch him up to speed, and after just a few hours he was ready to just blow up the player. But then I realized that his animations just did not flow well together. In addition, Khazad gave me some great suggestions saying that I should make him blow up instantly whenever he's near the player. So the next day I looked around for some animations that might make the boom orc more interesting, and after a bit I found some that I think are extremely hilarious but would fit his personality well. Then all I did was just switch out those animations, switch the orc to explode instantly, and bada bang bada boom, the boom orc is now all in, and this is how it turned out. There is still one more enemy I have yet to add, but I think I'm just going to leave it until the next video because I still have to plan out exactly how that orc will work. And speaking about planning, thank you to the people over at Milanote for sponsoring this video. I personally really love their platform and it makes managing and getting everyone on the same page so much easier. If you guys want to try it out for your next project, check out the link in the description below. It's completely free. And if you guys want to get all caught up with Windshire in the last year, check out this video right here.